So welcome to Medical and Metaphysical Magic with Creighton and Janelle Davis. And we are so delighted that you've come to join us today. And if you're listening to this later, then we welcome you too. And thank you so much for tuning in. So we've got quite a lineup of questions that have come in over the last week, and some really amazing feedback from our first go, Karyn, at playing and sharing the information that we've learnt over the years and bouncing off each other to provide hopefully some good indications and paths for people to go down and explore for themselves if they're interested. So there's something I need to say at this point here. We are not, and it's our medical disclaimer, so we're not giving medical advice within anything that we're offering here. What we are giving is our own personal opinions and from our own personal experience. And for our beautiful Karyn Creighton, that's absolutely considerable experience when it comes to anything health related and in the natural therapies, isn't it, Karyn?
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? I mean, you know, you sort of look back and you think it's gone in an instant, but it's actually 32 years I've been working in this industry. And it's just, it amazes me that the time's flown so much and how things have changed.
Yeah.
The industry's changed so much. So I trained in natural nutrition, and a lot of the nutritional things have actually changed. And so we're always learning. So it's really, really exciting.
Have you also noticed that people have changed and opened to the natural therapies more or less? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, very much so. Saying that though, because I started my working career in natural health in England, and of course we have a very large population, and so almost as soon as I started, I had a 3-month waiting list. But I think it was because there wasn't nearly so many natural therapists around, you know. But I was lucky because then I got so much experience so quickly. And you know what it's like, Karyn, you know, when you learn these things, you learn your therapy or you learn your modality, and you really start learning when you start practicing. Start working with clients, because that's why we call it practicing, because we're practicing all the time. You know, we practice on ourselves. I started everything I've trialed. So I've done some really interesting things. You know, I've been a colonic irrigation therapist as well as my herbalism and iridology and colour puncture and, you know, and nutrition and all that sort of thing. So I test everything. And so that's the fun of it, isn't it? It's the experiential side of it.
Oh my gosh, if you love the experiential things, yeah, anything health related, anything personal development related, in fact, anything in life. When a kid's learning to walk, they're experimenting, right? When they're learning to ride a bike, they're experimenting. How far can they trust their own balance within something? So I guess we just bring it into the loves and passions that we have that are often become careers when they're real, true loves and passions.
Yeah, aren't we lucky? I feel so lucky and so blessed that I came into this field through my own physical need, because I had health stuff, and so that was the biggest blessing for me. You know, sometimes it seems that the worst thing is your biggest blessing, doesn't it? And so that's what I'm always working with, is improvement. Life is a state of improvement, isn't it? And that's the whole ethos, really, of how we work, is how can we improve? How can we help clients improve? How can we, and ourselves and people around us?
Absolutely. Actually, I have a little story. I'm sure you've got a story too around how we've put ourselves in situations through learning. So I came across something called face reading. This was I can't even remember how long ago, but I came across face reading, and I was fascinated that the face and the facial structures, the eyebrows, the nose, the wrinkles, the lines, the movement, the openness of the nose, the structure of the face, the setting of the eyes up, down, everything indicated patterns of thinking and habitual patterns of thinking. And therefore habitual patterns of thinking often across, now I would know, or now I do know, across DNA, you know, within the structure of our genetics from our family resemblances and things like that. And of course, I wanted to learn it and eat it and consume it and understand all this. But I came across the eyebrows, and I looked at my own eyebrows and I went, oh. At that time there in my life, I was at one of those beautifully wobbly spaces in having a young baby, and self-esteem had kind of just shot down through the floorboards. I don't know if anyone else has experienced that process. And I tended to be quite emotional within my own space. And what I discovered is I had been so finely plucking my eyebrows that I had a very, very fine line, and it was very, very high on my forehead. So right the way up here, I'd pluck them all back. And face reading indicated that the eyebrows are there to stop the sweat dripping into the eyes, and also because the eyes are the emotional component. And most of us would know this, right? You look in someone's eyes and really connect with them at an emotional and soul level. And I looked at my eyebrows and I was like, oh, that kind of indicates that, you know, how I'm experiencing life. I'm not dealing with emotions very well, and I didn't have this lovely thick platform in place to not protect me, but just to sort through. And also eyebrows are related to thinking patterns. So, oh my gosh, they're amazing. Just even how the eyebrows go up
and down.
Yeah, or whether they go, you know, skew with. And sometimes I always think of I'm going to generalize this beautifully, a grumpy old man always has those cantankerous eyebrows. And the thinking of eyebrows that do that is cantankerous thought. It's the capacity to think in a different way or challenge processes, etc. So having looked at all the different eyebrow shapes and all the different ways that would mean that I would interact, because it's about how you interact with people, how you manage your life, how blah, blah, and it went on and on and on. I was like, I've got to do something about my eyebrows and see, here's my science thing around everything I do, and see if it makes a difference for me. So now, any woman on here who has ever tried to grow her eyebrows back knows that it's a very uncomfortable process, because you look in the mirror and you got strays everywhere. So it did take a while. It took about 4 months to actually get my eyebrows back into a far thicker way. And I did notice a difference, because also when there's quite thick eyebrows, you have the capacity to jump into things a lot more, because you've got this thought process sorted. One of the things I do with my children, this is just a useful metaphysical thing, right? If my children or anyone I know and love has their eyebrows coming down at some stage, you know, they've pulled something over their head and it's caught, I always invite them to reorganize it, because it actually affects your thinking.
I've got to do it now. I'm thinking, as you're talking, I'm going, I've got to go look in the mirror, because I can't see my eyebrows because of my fringe. Now, is there something about having a long fringe that am I hiding?
Are you?
If you looked at it that way, Karyn.
Yeah, possibly. Possibly you're peeping.
Fringe stuff it is. Okay.
Because the forehead, just playfully here.
Interesting.
The forehead is also, of course, where the cortex of the brain is. And so the lines across the forehead, you'll see I've got beautifully thick lines. And I had them at at 28, I already had thick lines like that. And it's actually a lovely thing in the area of the way we think. So quite capacity to take a thought and take it all the way through. And I have excessive ones across here that I lovingly look at and go, yeah, because that's how I do me. I go jumping into things and allow the full thought to have its expression, not just a little thought, finding out, right? So yes, it truly does make a difference. All right.
So, you know, because this is evolution of humanity. You know, we're judging people by wrinkles, or, you know, we see the media, that person's getting older, but really and truly, isn't that a beautiful thing? You know, the wisdom lines, as I like to call them, because they are, aren't they? They're showing that we've experienced a lot.
Absolutely.
And so, anyway,
we have a beautician on here who said she helps people with eyebrows daily. Thank you. That's a good idea. So it
That's very cool.
really does frame the eyes, and that's a little bit of metaphysical fun as we enter into our medical and metaphysical component. I have a quick. Did you want to share an experience? Sorry, Karyn. Did you want to share an experience of something like that for you? That was a deep learning, not necessarily where you've actually deep dived into something and to prove it right or wrong.
Oh, I've got lots of those, but I've got a question that's just come up for me. It came up for me this morning, and I thought I must ask Karyn, because it was from very early on in my career. And I was working with a beautiful lady who had multiple sclerosis. And we were working with nutrition and herbs and stuff like that. And she was getting on, she basically, when I first met her, she was in a wheelchair. And then after a few months, she was walking and able to do a lot more around the house. And then all of a sudden, she just stopped coming to see me. And of course, you go inward and you think, oh my God, what have I done? You know, as a practitioner, you think, oh my gosh, what have I done to hurt, and you get all these scenarios going. But then I met her husband in the supermarket a few months later, and I said, oh, how's your lovely wife going? And he said, oh, she's gone back into the wheelchair. And I went, oh, really? Why did she stop coming? And he said to me, it's very quite profound, but you'll be able to. He said, oh, well, as she got better, we didn't do everything for her. And I thought that was quite an insight from a husband who obviously loved her to bits, but he saw the insight, but didn't push her through. I don't know. What did you get from that?
Wow. I actually see that.
Nothing like putting you on the spot, is there?
Oh, yeah. But I hear what you're saying, because I call this the half trip. You know, you're on a trip to Auckland and you start going and you get off in Ngaruawahia. But you wanted to go to Auckland, you had the idea, but you just got off the bus at Ngaruawahia. And that's my reference to this. When someone starts a process of any kind and they don't complete it, there's a half journey in place. And it's neither right nor wrong, it's everybody's choice. I think he really nailed it on the head. There are always coping strategies or reasons or secondary gains or deep purposes for anything that we experience in life. And to have things done for us in this particular regard would have become a strategy for her. And I'm even going to go, and with deep respect to her soul, but with anybody, it's that level of control. We have a lot of control over people by when we place demands on them, and they have to do it for us for whatever particular reason. And these deep set, which also falls into part of the disease that she was within, these set patterns that hold, and they really do hold deep resentments within it, but often the joy of life is missing, and there's no capacity to connect in it. But if somebody doesn't even know how to be happy, they actually don't know, and believe me, I have met many people who truly don't know how to be happy. It's like they've never learned, but they find a sense of happiness or satisfaction from something else. So by default, they locate what it is that they're after. Because I mean, one of the deep presuppositions in NLP is people are not their behaviours. They're not their behaviours, and yet it is behaviours that we witness within life, and that's how we interact with people, is through these behaviours. And everybody truly does work to the best that they possibly can with the current resources that they have. And if that is through having other people do things for you.
Yeah.
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 So
That makes sense.
there is a deeper component to this too, because it also comes to the identity, and I've witnessed this many times, and that's, who would I be if I wasn't that person? So if, multiple sclerosis, who would I, the identity, be if I didn't have the identity of multiple sclerosis? Let me shift that one to a lighter, well, actually a deeper and darker one, but to depression. Who would I be if I wasn't depressed?
Yeah.
So some people wear that cloak of, let's say, depression as a warm comfort in at least knowing who they are. I am depressed, or I am ADHD, an adult ADHD, or I am sick, or I am unwell. And it starts to begin to form an identity. And when an identity is formed around something, that's where the behaviors, the capacity, the thinking components, the beliefs, the values, and everything fall out of an identity. So one of the major things for a true change and transformation is to work with someone's identity. And you would know this, Karyn, when people are losing weight, right?
Absolutely. And what's quite interesting with that is, when we, the people we attract when we're in a certain mind space. And I've observed over the years of working with beautiful women who are shrinking.
Yes.
What happens is the people that they, I don't like to say lose weight, but, when they're shrinking. So when they, I mean, we have to say lose weight because that's what they're doing. But when they're shrinking, they go back to their friends, family, the people who they felt very comfortable with before. Then some judgments come in underneath it. And I think what those judgments are a lot to do with is that they don't have the same vibration. So they're not as comfortable vibrationally with the people that they were surrounded with. And I think as people start to recover from whatever it is, whether it's weight or whether it's depression or whether it's MS or whatever it is if we're surrounding ourselves with the same people, the same surroundings, the same medication, the same everything, then it's very hard not to move back into it. And I think that is what I perceive our job is to help people move so they feel comfortable within themselves, totally within themselves, so they're not actually affected by anyone else around. That's one of my jobs, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and I can see that, I can see a number of the names here. There's a lot of practitioners on the call today, and so they'll know for themselves that this is their job too, right? To provide a space for somebody to shift from one way of being into another way of being. And what is normally desiring to be seen is a new strategy within that space. So when you talked about the environment, when they go back into an environment, this is the same true whether it's the micro environment of a singular cell in the body, or the macro environment of the home or the social networks that they're engaged in. That truly does create, if we're the cell when we're in the macro environment, it truly does affect and trigger us in different ways. And until we have a stable new way of being, until it's stabilized, there is this wobbliness of who am I now? Because I personally believe that we're always stepping into our new truth. We're always stepping into our new truth, and that is part of the shift from one way of being to another, from ill health back into health, which is our natural way of being, and yet that becomes our new truth within this now space. So does that kind of play, have that conversation around that client back then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. If I'd have had the wisdom to have done that, that would have been, if I knew then what I know now, I would have played it differently.
Yeah, of course, me too. And I guess it's that level of outcome and setting an outcome with the client, clear, really connecting with their whys they're doing it. Because I've just been on a 10-day detox, Karyn's beautiful 10-day detox, And I really had to click into my whys a couple of times, why I was doing it. That was easy enough for my self-motivation, but I had to remember even yesterday why I was doing it. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's for our clients to remember what their bigger purpose is, or what their motivating force is, or what their inspiration is, or what they're truly after, as they're going through a process that will be outside of their comfort zone in order for change and transformation to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that's a definite thing to actually really, what I try and do when I'm working with a client on a long-term program is I try and change those goals, because when they start with one goal, like reducing of pain, and then as the pain starts going, right, now let's set another goal, because we can keep moving forward. Like I know, I don't know about you, Karyn, and you're exactly the same, I do know about you, is we're always wanting to improve, a constant state of improvement. And if you don't have those goals, then you're less likely to achieve them. I mean, it's the same with everything in life, isn't it? But health is no different.
No.
Health and well-being. And so, yeah. Gosh, we could go deep into this, Karyn.
And the level of people on our call, from just what I'm observing here, would probably be able to add in some really valuable conversations. So feel free, please, from the practitioners that I can see on this call, feel free to add in information, and we'll talk to that as we go.
Yeah.
All right. Actually, this correlates through to addiction a wee bit. There's a question here about addiction, and it's just the label. Can you talk about addiction? I'm going to offer that one to you first, Karyn.
Thank you very much. Like we're talking about physical addiction. Well, so we're talking about the addiction to food, addiction to alcohol, addiction to drugs, addiction to we can be addicted to work, can't we? We can be addicted to many things, but really the physical addiction, how I look at it as a physical level, is what are we trying to squash down? Right. Normally it's emotional, so you're going to be covering that. So what I can bring to the party with this is, if someone is addicted to a substance, we need to find something that will help them wean off. Because I think cold turkey can be so hard on the body that in actual fact it can actually destroy the body, because the body, toxicity wise, can be so, especially if someone's been abusing chemicals and food and things, well, especially chemicals like drugs and that sort of stuff, they start detoxifying really rapidly. Then many of them, their liver, kidneys and lymphatics just can't keep up. And so I've had a client recently who's been desperately trying to come off Ritalin. So he was put on to Ritalin when he was 5 years old. And when I first met him, I mean, it's not that recent actually, when I first met him, he was 19. And what we did was we kept him on the Ritalin, but we put him on homeopathic. And so we gradually weaned him off of the physical Ritalin, and, well, it wasn't Ritalin, it was the time release one. But we sort of and then we also cleaned up his diet so that he had lots of essential fats and a lot of really good quality nutrition, so that his body could really support him as he was going through it. And I don't see there's any difference with drugs and alcohol and things, so we have to really work on that level physically, making sure the nutritional status is really, really good. When it comes to food addiction, of course, I'd look at my detox process, because that really helps that, but we need some support with that as well. So with medication, I've got a few clients who are, I wouldn't call them addicted, but they depend, what's the difference, I suppose, they depend on antidepressants and other medications to keep them able to cope with life. So I suppose depression is one of them. We talked about that just a bit earlier, but depression is one. I see a lot of clients who are feeling unable to cope with life, and they want to come off the. They don't want to be on the antidepressants, but they feel that they can't cope without them. So I use a wonderful herb called rhodiola, and rhodiola is an adaptogenic herb and can really help. And it's got no contraindications with the other medications. So we can start weaning off and putting rhodiola in. And so it helps create a balance. So it makes life easier. And I think, and then of course, we often get people to work with someone like yourself, Karyn, or other practitioners who can work on the emotional root cause of the addiction. And so now I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. So as I was listening to you speaking then, what I saw was a correlation between getting the health basics and resources in place. So you see somebody's coming off, there's that physical need for the liver and the kidneys to be in good health in order to work with what the changes are that's happening. I see this a lot too, and I know that the conversations I've had with my peers and colleagues are the same, is that people want something changed, let's say at an emotional, mental, energetic, vibrational level. And of course they want change because the discomforts come so strongly now, and it's unbearable and it's intolerable. They want a shift and change. Now, what's happened for anybody, any human who's experienced this at any stage in their life, they've actually become addicted to their own chemicals in the body that is correlated to this way of being, this way of showing up in the world. People may call it stuck. They're kind of stuck. They just, no matter what they do, they're stuck. This will be because the habits of the body at that way of thinking, the way of feeling, the underlying feelings that are going on, what they're taking in through the eyes, what they're listening to, where their conversations are at, will very much be feeding, just like the body, feeding into that way of being, and it keeps it in place. So one of the things, just like I know you do on the physical side of it, is teach people how to resource. Teach people actually how to be comfortable in their own body. So many meditation practices over the years teach us to come out of ourselves and disappear off into some beautiful la-la land, which is great, and we have amazing experiences there. What I love is teaching people to find their own body as a haven, their own body as a safe place to be, their own physical space. I mean, their own physical space and the space that they hold physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and energetically, to be the safe haven, so that no matter where they go, there they are. Because when I leave my house and I go, let's say to Rotorua, I go, my body goes. So isn't it nice that my haven can be with me all the time? And so a part of what I love about shifting the addicted nature to one way of being, or the chemical releases in the body and the constant thoughts and the habitual conversations, etc., is to teach the body a new way of being, which, by the way, is the natural way of being, according to me, to know how to feel safe, to know how to feel comfort, to know how to feel easy, and what that feels like. And when people can learn that and practice that, then changes start to happen, because this practice, this daily practice of resourcing the body, allows, like the liver and like the kidneys, to be in a place where it can remove the toxics that no longer work, shift and change strategies, come up with, and I love this, come up with new thoughts, because we are so habitual in our thinking. We're actually, according to me, I've noticed it with myself if I'm not careful. We get used to the same thoughts. So new thought provides new opportunities, which provides new experiences, new ways of seeing the world, new ways of taking in the world, new ways of making meaning, new opportunities to experience the free flow of life that we are. So it kind of touches into addiction, and it doesn't. It sort of indicates that we have this magnificent resource within us, and it's about tapping into that and allowing it to learn new ways. I'm fascinated by generative learning, and generative learning is the process of learning how to learn. And learning how to learn is often within that is a mighty leap, which doesn't make any logical sense because it's not supposed to, because it's a whole new paradigm of thought or a whole new paradigm and way of being. So when the body's resourced, it has this capacity to do these beautiful leaps that are there for it.
Yeah, and I think it can be so uncomfortable, and that's where the physical support really kicks in. Like, for example, what came to mind when you were talking about the liver and how our livers are so important to our physical well-being, and yet we take them for granted. I mean, let's face it, they have 500 known actions, our liver, and wow, isn't that amazing in itself? But we don't know how many hundreds of unknown actions it has, because we don't really know what's going on within our humany womany skin, do we really? It's sort of, so with the physical support, the liver is, as a protector, has to be milk thistle, the herb. It's a wonderful protectant for keeping the liver safer. And so it's a great one. That would be a great one if someone was trying to come off alcohol, for example. And it really helps support them. And I know that whenever I have a few glasses of wine too many, that I know it really helps me recover, because I don't drink very often, but I know my body don't like it too much, probably due to abuse as a youngster. But there's different herbs that support, that are really nurturing and protective. And I'm not sure whether it's the actual herb that we can break down into physical, scientific components, or whether it's the energetic component of it. And because I love using herbs homeopathically, because by using them homeopathically, it makes them an energy, vibrational essence as well as a herb. So when I use, say, something like milk thistle and I make it, I also make a homeopathic of it. So I put them together, so you get energy in them. And I think it's a really interesting new way of using herbs. It's been herbs have been used for millennia for our health and well-being, but now we're starting to, as humans, raise our vibration, and so the remedies that work best for us are higher vibration remedies. And although some people really resonate with herbs, others resonate better with essences and homeopathics. And by combining them, we'll know.
By combining them, we've got the physical base and the energetic base.
Yeah. And then there's really simple foods, like we talked about last week, is simple foods of we can use foods that are in our cupboard as superfoods, like the humble lemon.
Oh, yes.
Is an amazing flush. Using a whole lemon just with the peel taken off. I get 2 actually. I normally use 2 for this. Is a kidney flush, and it's basically take the peel off, but leave the pith on, chop it up roughly, bung it in a blender with a pinch of cayenne pepper and water. First thing in the morning, do that, and it will flush your kidneys through.
Wow.
Amazing. It's amazing, the difference. I had a beautiful client who was really struggling with the detox and stuff, with lower back pain, where the kidneys are. And she, not lower back, but mid back. And she was struggling for a few days, and then we got her to do the kidney flush, and literally the next day she was fine.
So the kidney flush, just so for repeating, is couple of lemons. Why do you peel it? Because I love the actual.
The peel is too bitter.
Okay.
And it's too hard to break down within the blender, but the pith has got a huge component of, it's got a bit of pectin, it's got a bit of other chemicals that really, really makes this work.
Right.
And it actually helps. The lemon can help break down residue that the kidneys get all clogged. Let's face it, they do a huge amount of work. You know, they're pushing through blood, God knows how many litres a minute. All the time, cleaning. Well, it's a bit like having a car, you know, oil filter and not having a service, isn't it? If we keep on expecting our kidneys, our liver to keep on coping, we're actually being a bit naive, really.
Yeah.
So when people say a detox, what we're basically, yes, our bodies naturally detox all the time. We're detoxing 24/7. But when we start getting symptoms and things, is our detoxification organs are under duress.
Right.
They're a bit blocked.
Okay.
And
can I just ask for the recipe again for people that are listening? So a couple of lemons, and how much cayenne pepper?
A pinch.
A pinch. Okay, and some water and a blender. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. Thank you.
You can make it thick or as thin as you like.
Woohoo! Is there anything else you want to say within that space? Because I've got another question that's just come through too.
Well, this detoxification, we can go on forever. But the liver flush is very similar. And all I do with the liver flush is use just one lemon, and we use one apple, water, a dessert spoon of olive oil, and a clove of garlic and some ginger. I'll write these down and I'll put it on the Facebook page. I think that might be
okay. Beautiful.
Or we can send out a newsletter. When we send out the recording, maybe we can add that in. And so by flushing the liver, obviously, what I get clients to do is to do a kidney flush for 5 days in a row, 2 days off, and then a liver flush for 5 days in a row and 2 days off. And when doing a detox. So if they're doing a major detox.
There you go. Thank you for your wisdom yet again. It's just beautiful. And yes, it would be lovely if we could actually include it, whether it goes out in this recording or in another email separate.
Yeah, we'll do that. I'll do that. I'll put that on my list of jobs.
Okay. All right. So we have a lymphatic question. So somebody who noticed, what was it? A bulginess on the side of the neck that sort of erupted, and they feel like it was their lymphatics. So they're just asking a question. Is that how lymphatics would show if they're blocked?
Yeah, very often. Or you could be fighting infection, but unless there's other symptoms, it's where the lymphatics get congested. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this, Karyn. There's people who I've been very blessed over the years to meet some amazing massage therapists, manual lymphatic therapists. And manual lymphatic drainage is amazing. I met someone when I was on a course 20 odd years ago, and she was a manual lymphatic drainage therapist, and she trained in Switzerland. And she did some manual lymphatic drainage on my face. And you're talking about face diagnosis and stuff. Well, she did the manual lymphatic drainage, and my face totally changed shape.
Wow.
And I felt all this mucus and everything all draining down my neck, and it carried on for about 2 days.
Wow.
But it was so gentle. It was like just a gentle touch. And what I found over the years is people calling themselves manual lymphatic drainage therapists, and they're using quite harsh touch. So they're doing quite deep massage. But what she taught me was, and other therapists on this might be able to disclaim this. I mean, I'm just saying what I'm telling, as that when you do lymphatic drainage, it's such a soft touch. It's almost like it's just doing sort of that. It's just, you don't see any indentation at all. You just do, and it's like someone's stroking you, a very gentle stroke, because the lymphatic vessels that go throughout the whole body are right close to the top of the skin. And so if you do too deep, you can cut them off.
Ah.
And so, you know, you've probably heard of skin brushing. When you do skin brushing, you always brush towards the heart. By brushing towards the heart, because that's where the thymus is, which is where the drainage organ for the lymphatics is. So if you do that, then you're brushing towards the heart, and you do it gently, you don't do it too harsh. And with the lymphatics, because the lymphatic system has no pump, like unlike the heart. So if you think of the lymphatic system, it goes through like the veins.
Yeah.
It goes through to the toes, to the fingers. If you're not moving your body, then the lymph can't move. It gets all sluggish and congested. And so what I suggest to clients who are immobile or maybe sitting in an office all day and can't get up is I just suggest that they just knock their heels down. So you just keep on knocking your heels, and that will stimulate the lymphatic pump. So it starts the lymph moving. Obviously, it's great to go and do yoga or go and do other movement, but if you can't, then that's a really good way of doing it. And also, what I've had clients who are totally immobile and can't even do that, and they've got grandchildren, I've got them to put their feet on a mini trampoline and get their grandchildren to jump up and down.
Oh, how good.
And that will work.
It's like one of those vibrotrain machines. Those.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. For that. Yeah, they're really good for that. And so, by the face and neck and things, when the lymphatics get closed off, it could be chemical toxicity because what we're putting on our skin. Yeah. So they just get congested by not being able to work fast enough, not drinking enough water so it can't flow, because our fluids in our body, our blood and our lymph need to be thin enough so it can actually move, and movement. So the more we move, the more everything can help. Now within the neck, so my lovely lymphatic drainage friend would say just gradually, just stroke gently down here towards the throat. So it's a really interesting system, really, the lymphatics, because it's basically getting rid of junk.
Right.
That's what it's doing, and it's helping our immunity. So
yes.
It's part of our immunity.
Yes. Yes, I always, if I see the lymphatics in the body, I kind of see it like seaweed. That's just how it looks in my head. You know, those sort of.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just if that's what I'm witnessing in the body, that's the way I see it, and they seem to come up as either a blue or a green, and it indicates whether it's working really well or whether it just wants a little bit of help. So it's just interesting how our minds make sense of things.
So would you say then, when you look at it, that the green would be slightly congested, a bit like mucus?
Yeah.
Isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Ah, that's interesting.
They seem to have it's always fun to have a healthy young person that's willing to be there and to have a look at a full flood, well running system and actually to see it in its health. Because often I know, and the practitioners on here will know, that we just see the things that aren't working so often. You know, people come in that it's not working, and there's all these amazing beings walking around on the planet with their lymphatics working beautifully, or their nervous system running pristinely, or and this is our natural way of being. Actually, it's our natural way of being. And so any healing that's ever going to occur, it's just a gentle reorientation back to wholeness and health. So it's just so nice to have those compare and contrast visuals in place. Anything else on the lymphatics?
I haven't. What about you? What would you say with the lymphatics if you looked at it as, if someone is getting like edema in the legs, so they're really, you know, like the ankles are really sort of blowing up and there's nothing that they can do, or knees or whatever, how would you interpret that as an emotional or spiritual or?
So it would it would very much depend on the client and how they're showing and how they're flowing. But if it was, it would be, the contributions would be, yeah, my orientation would be to what is holding the stuckness. What is the orientation? Because I would imagine that it would be an orientation to the past. I'm just making this up in my head, but it would probably be an orientation to the past that is not set free into this present now, right? Which is where all the flow and ease is. So it would, and if it would, let's say if it was in the ankle, it might be that stepping forward in life. I mean, the Louise Hay stuff is beautiful, isn't it? Where we sort of, it indicates the body part and its use, kind of indicates how we're moving through life. And a swollenness and a staticness might indicate the capacity that there isn't the easy forward movement in life. And then the orientation to the left or right hand side of the body may indicate to the masculine and feminine, or it may indicate to the personal or business side. And that would then energetically, of course, feeds would come in, but it would, my questioning would be around what it is that they would, teaching the body again, what would you actually like it to feel like? So reminding the body what it feels like to actually have fluid movement. And of course, once the body goes, oh, okay, that's the way I like to be, then it can happen quite easily. And the emotional, spiritual, energetic, and I would go as far as to say that those would probably, using the theta healing, access to that would probably have a fair amount of contractual obligations or curses and hexes might be a bit strong, but things that have been said against or about self or another can have location on the body. And if it's around the ankle, I would imagine that would be that kind of catch, something that's keeping us back. So yeah, that would be my conversation around them. So if anybody has that, it could be an old patterning from past experience that's showing up and desiring to be witnessed for release. And that's really why we have pain in the body or discomfort in the body, is it's sending us a message of some kind. And sometimes we're fast with getting it, and sometimes we're slower, but we always come to something. And ultimately,
the jolly old blockages, isn't it?
And ultimately, we will all be released eventually into the process of death. That we anyway.
Transition, transition
from one form into another.
One thing that just came to mind is one of the easiest herbs, of course, for the lymphatic system is cleavers. And cleavers is, I forgot, there's another name for it here in New Zealand, but I can't remember what it is. But basically, bindweed or whatever, milkweed, I think they call it. And it's easily identifiable. It's got those little burrs that stick to your clothes, and it's a creeper. It creeps everywhere, and it's sort of like it's like a little umbrella fly. And so it's an amazing tea. Can help the lymphatic really move. And so so that's one tea you can easily access.
And it's in the garden naturally, isn't it? It's
everyone's garden has it.
It's the weed that is the medicinal herb in the garden. I love it.
Me too. I don't believe any are weeds, to be honest. I think I'm not a great gardener, but I love a wild garden. I've always loved the meadows, and that's the sort of like the fairy in me, I think. I love the meadows, and I love the look of it. I love the feel of it, walking through it. But these herbs are just amazing, and you'll probably find everyone, even if you've got a manicure garden, that these little herbs come popping up, and you're like, oh, it's a weed. And then if you maybe just think a little bit outside the box and go, oh, I wonder what that's for, and it'll probably be what you actually need.
Isn't that interesting how the seasons provide what we need the most at the time, and nature itself actually shows up. We're such an abundant creature. We're so supported in every single way. We're so it's just about our awareness and I guess knowledge, as in knowing. If we don't know how to use something, then of course we don't use it. But people like you, Karyn, who share that knowledge, provide opportunities for us to explore our own gardens, because I hear they're just coming to an end soon. But the dandelion is beautiful. Its root, its leaves for salads, its flower. Can you tell us more about that?
The roots, amazing for the liver. It's an amazing detoxifier. And I was talking about a liver flush earlier. Well, if you take a dandelion root tea or coffee, it has to be boiled. So when you get the root, if you get a root of anything, most of the time you need to, what we call a decoction. And the decoction just basically means you have to simmer it for a period of time to get the chemical constituents out. And so that's dandelion root. I mean, amazing. This is an amazing plant that nearly everyone will have in their garden. And then you've got the leaf, which is fantastic for the kidneys. Wow. What an amazing gift that is, isn't it? So with a leaf, generally, not all leaves, but with the leaf, generally, you just need to make a normal tea. So you just infuse it. So you pour your water over it and drink it after the kidney flush. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. It's so it's so simple, really. Health is simple, and I think that's what we're trying to get across. Really, is we can make it really complicated. We can go, oh well, the thyroid, you need this, and you need that, and you need this, and then the liver needs this and that. But really and truly, we're provided for. Nearly all our needs are provided for. We need a few little extras because of the world today, but yeah, we're provided for, aren't we? Really, we get everything we ever need, and the right practitioner comes along at the right time to help us too. So,
and isn't that fascinating? How, what do they say when the student's ready, the teacher will appear? But it's also when there's a need in place, a practitioner will appear, or the right person to talk to, or the right information is passed on. I echo what you say. We are amazing beings, and we live in a magnificent world with magnificent people, and we're all a part. And with so many people on this call, there'll also be that capacity and knowledge and knowing that you are sometimes the key for somebody else for what it is that we need. You're the solution. So we're all in this together.
I think the power of words are phenomenal. This is just a little thing that happened a few years ago. Is like many practitioners who are on this call, that we see hundreds of people a year. And one day, this is when I was living in the UK, and sometimes you see people and you go, I recognise you, but I don't actually know where I recognise you from. And this lady came up to me and she said, Karyn, you saved my life. And I'm going, oh, thank you. And I just said to her, what did I say? And she said, I don't remember, but you saved my life. And you sort of think, wow. You might have just said something about that might have seemed quite simple to you, but it can actually make a huge difference to another.
Yeah.
And I think that's the realization of us as humans, is how much good we can do. There's a lot of perceived negative stuff happening in the world, but look at the good that's happening.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. That is a magic way to bring this to an end. I'm just going to sum up what we've actually covered. I've tried to keep a list, and I'm sure I haven't got everything, but we talked about eyebrows and the influence of eyebrows around the habitual thinking process. We also looked at the client who stops their healing process, maybe some of the reasons behind that. Addictions, thank you so much, Karyn, for your sharing within that. The kidney flush, actually you covered a number of kidney flushes and liver flushes in this call as an overall, and thank you, because there's a variety of ways and variety of reasons, and you provided some magnificent information there. And also just talked about the detox process, which of course moved into the lymphatics as well. So the call at large has had its own theme, and there'll be a reason why. We don't know why, but it is what it is. And so thank you so much for sharing that. Within this process, so this is the second one we've done. I'm enjoying them. Are you, Karyn?
Oh, I love it. I love the fact that we can answer people's questions when they're spontaneous. I just love the spontaneity, because it actually doesn't give us any time to think, so we can actually get information that people need. And it's easy to do videos about things we've pre-planned, and yeah, it's good not to. I've found in my life it's much better not to pre-plan anything. All right, you have to plan a few things, but this sort of thing, I think it's really valuable for people. Yeah. From what I've heard, people have found it valuable. So that's what we want. We just want people to help, really, that we share the knowledge that we've accumulated over the few decades.
Sharing the knowledge. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And so we've got 5 more that we've scheduled to go. We're gonna try our Facebook live from a Zoom webinar, which we know is possible. What we don't know is whether it's recordable or not. So we're going to try that. So if you see us pop up on Facebook together, we're trialing out this idea, but we've just got to find out whether it records or not. So these are purposely free and live, and recordings are sent out to you. So if you've listened to this live, thank you very much for being here. If you've listened to this later, thank you very much for clicking on and listening. And we truly appreciate you. Send us your questions, your family's questions, things that we can certainly throw around and have conversations around. And yeah, and the completeness of it, thank you. Karyn, do you have anything you'd like to?
Oh, thank you, Karyn, for giving us some wonderful information about the other side. And thank you for just being there. And also, everyone, thank you for watching. And we really appreciate it.
Yeah, we have. So thank you very much. We're just going to call this call to an end now. I always want to try and keep it within the hour. And we're doing time recording really well.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. We're back here again live next week at 12 o'clock on a Wednesday. If any of the emails are out of date time-wise, we are here at 12 noon on a Wednesday consistently for the next 5 weeks. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.